Hello everybody, I am the Silent Deviant, and this is the Silent Sanctuary. You already knew that stuff because it's just sitting on your computer screen right in front of you, but apparently this is just popular video etiquette for everybody to introduce themselves to other people. So let's move on to the actual point of this video, because this is going to be the first, other than my introduction for the actual channel itself, video to put onto the Silent Sanctuary, and we're going to be talking about 5 particular stories and universes that I have created so far that we will be talking about more in depth on the channel as I start putting more content up. So let's go ahead and get into that, shall we? The first one that we have here is a story called Tempest, which takes place in a universe called Azeris, which resides in the realm of Eon, a world that was constructed entirely from the forces of elemental magic. Now, in Azeris, everyone has an attunement to the elemental forces within its very core. Others have a stronger attunement to this force and, as a result, can utilize all of the forces a lot more efficiently. Shortly after this world's creation, an aberration came to existence known as the Daemons, which are, in summary, a corrupted form of human that are driven by pure desire and destruction. With the Daemons, or Diamonds, I'm not even completely sure how I actually wanted the pronunciation to be, but we're going to go with Daemons. So, with the Daemons being objectively stronger than humanity's armies, all of the races came together to find a better solution. As a result, the heroes were born, and their solution was to find those with the strongest attunement to magical energy, and train them as elite forces in the ranks of their armies. Thus began the Tempest War. Sounds pretty neat for an opening paragraph, eh? Well, I mean, hopefully yes, because I'm reading this straight off of a script right now, so hopefully that came out pretty decent. Next up is Exploring the Stars, a non-canon story based in the universe of the world Starbound. Now, if you haven't played the game before, first off, what the hell are you doing with your life? Second, this is a space-based survival crafting game, probably one of my favorite of all time, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because it centers itself around, like, the vastness of space itself. I apologize on all the background noise that you guys are hearing. I wasn't expecting a goddamn train whistle in the background, and you can definitely hear my fans that are in my case on my PC, without a doubt. They need cleaning. But anyway, this story is surrounding a demi-human cat by the name of Crystal. Crystal with a K and a Y, that is. Krystal spelling, because why not be edgy with it? Which is a felon in the Starbound universe, by the way. Crystal is an amnesiac that has no idea how she became stranded on this planet in the first place, and left with only a barely functioning spaceship, a ship AI named Sail, and bitter memories of her fallen friend, who left her those items shortly before they landed on the surface of the planet. It is up to her to explore this planet, the universe, and to find the answer to who she really is. This story actually has some chapters that I already have written out that's on my laptop over there, so this will be a really easy one to start out an audiobook for, because I've already started the story, and I already have the idea of what the story is going to be anyway, so this one's like the most complete from chronology, start to finish, essentially, is what I'm saying here. So anyway, on our third story here, which is Valkyrie. This one has a futuristic cyberpunk-style sci-fi story that I designed to be somewhat similar to Cowboy Bebop, essentially. And I don't even have names for the characters right now. That's how new this one is, to be honest. And it's set in a world where there isn't really a government anymore. The closest thing to this are organizations that you have across the world that have basically gathered enough manpower, armament, and supplies to run their own territories. And while these powers don't exactly war in between each other, they definitely don't at all see eye to eye, and there's a lot of political stuff in this. And this is supposed to be more of like the war within, rather than like direct combat. This one was actually inspired by Girls Frontline, despite the fact that it's, again, not really like a militaristic, straight-up, like, guns shooting thing as much as the internal stuff. This is more about just pulling strings, moving things here, and being smart and strategic to take down your enemy, rather than anything else. And going back to the story itself, the story follows a laid-back protagonist that works very closely with one of these organizations, and is particularly good at completing whatever job is at hand, be it assassination, capture, or gathering intelligence, or any other thing in between. He's also a pretty solid crack shot as well. While on one of his jobs, our protagonist gets a gun to his head from an anonymous woman from a separate organization with combat abilities that far exceed his own. In time, they learn that they are far more efficient together rather than against each other, and it just leaves the question of, is it fate or simple coincidence? Who fucking knows, but this one is more of a love story rather than being about like the gunplay and all that other stuff. And it has a very similar concept to the horror game Soma, which is about defining consciousness and sentience, and being able to bridge that gap and define, like, what it means to live and to feel, essentially. This one gets a little bit more deep than my other stories. Now we have one that I have named Honorable Discharge. This one actually has space travel in it, and is set place in a completely separate planet from Earth, which is where the protagonist is from, by the way. And similar to Doom, our protagonist gets court-martialed for disobeying orders in his military based off of his own morals and principles. And when he is sentenced to death on board a ship that is orbiting just outside of a foreign planet's orbit, one of his close friends gives his life in order to be able to save him, sending our protagonist onto the surface of a planet via escape pod, figuring that it is better than being executed on the spot. When he lands on the planet, our protagonist meets a race of humanoid beings that can access their memories and other aspects of their brain as if it were a computer. This race of super intelligent humanoids also happens to be at war with another species of alien, which seek to only eliminate the last of their species and claim the planet by force. It's now up to the protagonist and the queen of this hyper-intelligent species to make the final push and reclaim their homeland from the invaders. In this story, there's also like these super badass mech suits, which aren't exactly Gundam suits, but rather like super technologically advanced and smaller suits that are jam-packed with crazy technology. Like, they can shoot rocket salvos out of their back and kinetic shields to block bullets and shit. They also have like jets to be able to like dodge left and right. Think like Hawken, that really fast-paced game that is very similar to MechWarrior, essentially. This is the idea that I had, and the idea of the suit is that it's the primary reasoning why this species even has a fighting chance against their militaristic invaders. And this is where the protagonist comes in handy, really, because they're scholars, not fighters. But anyway, on to the next story. We have number 5 right here, the final one, which is called Into Eon. Now, this one is just a modern story similar to Sword Art Online and an anime that I just recently finished called No Game, No Life, which is the inspiration for this story in the first place. A lot of these are very anime-inspired, and that's okay. But anyway, moving on. Rather than a universe run entirely by games, this one is a world that mirrors our own reality. People have jobs, families, there are cities and stuff, and it's really all the same to our own universe. Our protagonist this time is actually a set of twins, which are meant to be me and my sister, really. In this world, we are basically RPG nerds who decided to jump into a game called Into Eon, an RPG MMO that hasn't really been very well known and has existed for quite a while. No one's really sure why it is still even alive at this point, despite having such a small community behind it. But the more important part is the premise behind this RPG MMO, as it is a game with a legitimate ending behind it. There is a final boss that represents completing the actual game. And during the most recent patch for Into Eon, the developers themselves issue a promise to grant one wish to whoever completes the game first. Now, most people wrote it off, seeing that it was kind of sketchy, and the developers weren't really clear about what exactly this entails. However, the developers were sure about one thing, which was that they were dead serious about this claim. Our protagonists are curious, but also still skeptical themselves. The thing to remember here is that both of the twins are an excellent team because together they balance out each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they are able to duo most of the content that's in the RPG as it is. However, as the story progresses, they need to complete massive 16-man raids against what are called the elemental gods of Into Eon's world. For each boss cleared, they unlock more and more of the RPG to explore. Level caps are increased and more content becomes available to anybody that goes beyond this point. This is also where the SAO-inspired part of the game comes into place as well, because it's very similar to the Aincrad world in the first arc of Sword Art Online with the different floors that you need to clear with the bosses. The story is also very slice of life and a lot less serious than anything else that I have so far. And it's supposed to be just very lighthearted and intended to be filled with what I hope to be a colorful cast of characters that they meet in the game as well. The real moral of the story is designed to teach the twins to rely on people other than themselves, and that true strength lies behind the unity of the people that they meet rather than just relying on themselves, and they need to reach out and ultimately to enjoy their lives and to have more of a fun experience in general in the game and in reality. That's what the point of that story is supposed to be. But anyway, this video has been going on long enough. Those are the 5 stories that I wanted to go ahead and touch on. Eventually I will start making some content talking about these different universes as I start expounding on them, and then eventually audiobook style readings like I had promised in the first video. So stay tuned, guys. I hope to see you later on with those. I don't know how this is going to look like edited later on. I'm probably just going to jump cut the actual bulk of the video footage, so I apologize if it's not overly appealing. But I will see you guys later on. Take it easy. I have coffee to drink.